Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. In today's video, we are doing both a macro and a short-term analysis discussing the recent 24-hour pullback, what this means for the macro charts, and where Bitcoin is likely to move next on the short term. We'll also be going over our weekly key structural and technical levels, discussing the current uptrend and invalidations, as well as what the buyers need to do to officially reclaim control. And finally, we'll be finishing up on the total market cap and total altcoin market cap analysis. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, you can also join us on Telegram. This is the first link in the description down below. You'll get updates, charts, analysis, videos, educational posts, and everything you need to stay in the loop for cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. And if you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join our VIP by clicking the pinned comment, contacting our admin, clicking the first link to see a 50+ month trading track record, or the second link to see a 10-minute video inside the channel. You'll join over 700 members across 2 different channels, from the main VIP channel where we post trading setups like this one with the exact entries, targets and stop losses, trade justification, and exclusive analysis, including access to our group chats from our general chat, to our trading chart and education chat, to our daily video, our help, our trade setup, and our news chat. Check all that out, guys. Go ahead and contact us to join, and let's jump on in. So taking a look over the past 24 hours, we saw a pretty solid rejection here for Bitcoin. Now, we discussed in yesterday's video that although this move toward the upside was good, it looked nice, it just was not enough to confirm we were going to go higher. So we took a bit more of a bearish stance in the short-term price action, expecting both corrections for Bitcoin, as you can see posted in VIP here. We took a short basically at that exact top here, and for Ethereum taking a short basically at that exact top here, with both of those trades playing out very, very nicely. And we have seen the price action correct from these prior levels, these prior highs, now back to almost pre-rally levels. This is, of course, the President Donald Trump announcing the 90-day tariff. We've almost corrected back to those levels. Now, we're going to be discussing what we expect next from here and how this can impact the macro charts in just a moment. But again, we are just going over what happened over the past 24 hours first. So we also had the CPI data release. Now, CPI data actually came in relatively bullish. We saw CPI data actually drop down. We saw a negative result there on the month-on-month, which was pretty interesting, but the market didn't want a piece of it. It still dropped toward the downside. Now, we can go on for about an hour discussing why that is the case, but put simply, the 90-day tariff resulted in a short-term rally, but did not create any sort of change in the macroeconomic climate. Okay, what we are still watching for is going to be future interest rate decisions. And since those decisions are still ambiguous, still uncertain, and still left unchanged at the moment for potentially 2 rate cuts, it is expected that the trajectory of price action is going to continue in the direction of which it is continuing, which is downwards, provided we do not get any changes in that overall and established narrative. So although the rally was good, there was not enough there to really support the price at those levels. So we had seen that pullback from a contextual level, and from a technical level, we were seeing a lot of exhaustion develop with bearish divergences and exhaustion represented by the RSI at these points in time. We can see, looking at the data, 24-hour volume jumped up around 50%, 400 billion, with liquidations actually pretty high over here. We're going to refresh this page. I think it's out of whack a little bit. Liquidations are actually down 6% at 90, down 49%, my bad, at 295 million. So a little bit of a drop there in volume and liquidations, with the majority of those liquidations actually coming from longs, 216 million coming from longs, as the market did correct. Moving to the DXY is pushing lower and lower, as we can see here, coming very, very close now to this range low. We did see deviation toward the top side. We are expecting a correction into the range low, and again, this is going to be where we are expecting the target. So we're looking around 99.5. We're watching that sell side liquidity over here for a potential deviation into that level. If we fail to sustain, we have this entire region here where we could see the price action push down over the next year. Now, we're not expecting this to be quick. This will take a very, very long time to move down. If it does, this could take over a year, if not to 2026, for that move to occur. So we're watching very, very closely. The S&P 500 bounced pretty well upon that tariff news, as we did talk about in yesterday's video. However, rejecting pretty much perfectly from that point of which we discussed our prior break of structure being a key level of resistance where rejections were likely to develop from. And since then, we saw about a $230 drop here on the S&P as expected, creating not only now a rejection point, but another lower high. So until we break through this region, we are expecting the price to continue downwards. That does mean our validation for reversals have actually shifted from here now to here. So we're watching a break of this prior lower high, not the one before that. So we're watching 5,500 now as a break for continuations. Until then, we are expecting corrections back to these 4,800 lows. So not looking amazing, but good thing we have now established a lower high, which is going to be a earlier bullish validation if broken. So we don't have to wait as long for that bullish confirmation if we break above. On the higher time frame charts, of course, momentum is still bearish over here in a downtrend. We are moving towards a 200 moving average, suggestive that this mean reversion have almost occurred, but we have not quite touched that. So we do have potential for swings toward the low side still, so be pretty cautious moving into the next week of price action. We do have one more economic news thing coming out today. Economic news thing, listen to what I'm trying to say over here. The 11th of Feb, which is today. In about 12 hours from now, we do have PPI data. Previous 0, consensus 0.2, forecast 0.1. Of course, PPI, producer price index, a representation of inflation for, again, essentially production costs. And if those end up rising in a later period, they can be pushed on to consumers, which brings CPI up. So we do want to see that reducing overall. That would be a good sign for risk assets. So we're watching closely for that. Historically, PPI doesn't really impact the markets all that much unless the result is wildly different than what is expected. So I'm not expecting that much volatility, maybe a period of 30 minutes of volatility, but we're not expecting crazy swings unless the result is crazy. That is enough for that, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into Bitcoin. Now, before we do, make sure to sign up to BitUnix or BingX. The links are down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15% of all your trading fees. You'll support me making this content for you all on a daily basis. And of course, you'll support yourself trading on an exchange I trust and getting that 15% discount. Sign up to the links down below. We'll play an ad and we'll jump back in. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump back into it, taking a look at Bitcoin's short-term price action. Very quickly, looking at yesterday's price action, starting on the 5-minute chart over here, we can see we had those bearish divergences develop again, our exhaustion indicator suggesting we had this exhaustion developing right into these prior highs with that bearish divergence, signaling a potential short entry, looking for corrections back towards that break of structure. So we have not quite reached that low target here yet, but we're getting very, very close. So there is still a possibility for Bitcoin to come a little lower over here, and we're going to discuss that right now. So let's take a look. What are the chances of Bitcoin going lower, and how could reversals develop from this point onwards? So what we are watching is the hourly chart. If we're zooming out, we already know for Bitcoin to continue upwards, we need to break through these prior highs. This entire region here from about 84.6 down to around 83.5 is now going to be a massive chunk of resistance. This is all resistance, guys. So while we sit under here, the potential for corrections back into looking 74,000, looking 73,000, potentially lower, is still on the cards. If we break through here, well, then we are starting to target these buy-side liquidity levels. We're looking 89,000, we're looking 88.5k. So essentially bullish above, bearish below. The potential for bearish continuations are present below. The potential for bullish continuations are present above. We'll talk about the macro implication of these levels in just a second, but let's take a look at the short term. So for now, what we can see over here is we do have a uptrend developing here on the RSI, represented by 1 and 2 and 3 retests corresponding to these prior lows. So low 1, low 2 right over here, okay, and then low 3 is going to be over here. So we do have this overall uptrend in the RSI. For Bitcoin to continue through these lows and down into that break of structure, potentially into this level of liquidity, we need to see that RSI breakout. So what we are seeing here is a degree of exhaustion already, as the price action has seen a massive flush toward the downside, moving into a point of support, okay, getting close to that support, and the price action is seeing some short-term mean reversion toward the upside. This is expected, but this is not enough to suggest the price action is going to continue in this direction higher. If we do see that RSI breakdown, we'll be confident that the price has not finished correcting, and we're going to see continuations on the hourly into those key levels just marked out. Let's take a look at the shorter time frame price action. If we take a trend line and draw across from these two highs, this is going to be the downtrend Bitcoin is traveling within. Again, we need to break this downtrend for Bitcoin to continue back into these levels of resistance, which we retested that major cluster of resistance yet again. As we can see on the shorter time frame, if we zoom down to a 5-minute chart right over here, we can see we do have some key highs developing. We are watching this high right here, 80,000 psychological level of resistance, and then we are watching our prior breaks of structure and change of characters of potential rejection points if broken. So best case scenario for the sellers here would the price action fails to sustain through here and we tumble through that hourly RSI, confirming a continuation into that $77,000 to $76,000 region. If the buyers do push the price action through that 200 moving average and that resistance, we are watching for rallies into the break of structure, okay, or we're watching rallies into the change of character, which will have confluence with that downtrend, the overall trend Bitcoin has been in. That is it for the short-term price action, guys. Not much more to say today. We are just seeing some upward grinding and upward chop. We do have news today, and there is a VRPV gap over here on the hour, on the 15-minute, which can fill if the price action clears this equal high. So not looking for too much. If anything, I'd be taking profits on shorts, leaving a little bit in personally if you are watching from our hourly breakdown, but this is a good chance to, scale some profits out. You never just want to be having one exit point. Ideally, you want to be, scaling in and scaling out onto swing trades. That's just how I do it, and that's what I just recommend for me personally. So when I'm looking at the hourly and moving over to the weekly, some of those key levels still do pop up with relevance. The relevant levels we are looking at here, guys, is going to be, like we mentioned, if we go back to that hourly, that 89,000 level, that buy-side liquidity is only really going to be retested if we break through this resistance, which at the moment is quite unlikely. If we do break through this resistance, we do get to test 89,000. Testing 89,000 would be very, very good for the buyers, as not only we will be retesting that midline of the Gaussian channel here on the daily, but this is a 2 to 3 month level support, and now we have a 1 month level resistance. So we're testing this as a level of resistance yet again, okay? And we need to break through this resistance to continue higher. The reason I say it'd be very, very good for the bulls is because if we move back to the weekly chart, by breaking or retesting 89,000, we would, as a consequence, be breaking through the weekly downtrend on the RSI, which would represent a positive momentum shift, as well as the weekly downtrend on the price action would represent a trend shift. So we have two of those validation points, which would increase the probability of 89k being retested and broken. So through the process of testing 89k, we actually trigger 2 weekly bullish validation points. That would be best case scenario. I do believe it to be quite unlikely, however, but we need to be aware of the potential. Let's talk about the weekly levels in a bearish perspective now. As we can see, we have exactly 3 days remaining until the weekly candle close. This weekly candle close is going to be pretty important, and any weekly candle close, as a matter of fact, where we're testing the 50 EMA on the weekly and the Gaussian channel upper band, are going to be levels of, or weekly closes of absolute importance, as losses of the 50 EMA and the Gaussian channel upper band not only historically has represented major pivotal shifts in the direction of the trend on the higher time frame, but on the short term will trigger some critical short-term breakdowns, which can result in these flash moves on the short term, which we need to be very much aware of. So taking a look at 50 EMA, a level we have held as support for quite some time, essentially since September 2023. Gaussian channel upper band around about the same time. We've been above that since September 2023. And again, if we look at prior cycles, we've seen instances where the 50 EMA has been lost and the price action has lost the Gaussian channel upper band, which has resulted in major high time frame corrections. If we simply go over to a weekly chart over here, we can see in pretty much all prior cycles, when we lose that Gaussian channel upper band right over here, okay, we lose the Gaussian channel upper band over here, we enter macro downtrends, which push the price under the Gaussian channel upper band almost always to that 200 moving average. So you can see here in the weekly game, we broke the Gaussian channel upper band, pushed into the 200, broke the Gaussian channel upper band into the 200. So we do have the potential for breaking that Gaussian channel upper band and a push into the 200 yet again. If we do see that play out, the target for Bitcoin is going to be our sell side liquidity level at 54,000 or 54,900, 55,000 to 52,100. Okay, this level right over here will be the target for Bitcoin if we break that Gaussian channel upper band, and that will be the target provided 89,000 holds the resistance. So for as long as 89,000 holds the resistance, or as long as we remain underneath 89,000, this is always going to be a possible target for Bitcoin, as it is the next high time frame level of structural support if we ignore these levels of breaks of structure. Okay, breaks of structure are important, but they're not particularly levels of major liquidity. We're not going to see mass liquidations as we hit these levels. We'll see mass liquidations as we hit the levels over here, where we have those massive liquidity chunks, massive liquidity levels sitting right in those sell side liquidities rather than those break of structures. So this will hold up as a level of support, but this is where we're going to see mass liquidations occur. So that is what I'm watching out for, guys. You know, hopefully we continue upwards, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. I gain nothing by, honestly, I gain nothing by lying. Also gain nothing by being misleading anyone. I'm not trying to push my positions. I'm not trying to shield the trades I'm in, right? I'm simply relating to you what I believe the charts are doing and going based off the data. So this is what I see happening. This is what the data is telling me. This is what the momentum is telling me. If we see these level breaks, then I'll be confident for continuations. But until then, it's not looking amazing. I guess the only saving grace for Bitcoin right now is the fact that we are holding above that 50 and we are holding above the Gaussian channel upper band, but we do have 3 days remaining. A lot can happen in 3 days. Remember, the market really moves quickly sometimes. A lot can happen in 1 day, let alone 3 days. So we could look back here next week in 3 days time on a daily close, and we could have a whole different market. We could be all the way down over here. We could be back at retesting 89K. So we need to be aware of all these possibilities so we can act quickly and with the best information available. Remember, if you are blinding yourself to all of the potential for downward movements or all of the potential for upward movements, you essentially blind yourself to 50% of the potential moves in the market. Okay, and that assumes you are correct about the other 50%. Let's say you're correct about the other 25% of the 50%. That means 75% of the potential moves you are missing in the market simply by blinding yourself to a simple directional move up or down. So this is why it's important to be always aware of upward and downward moves, never have a bias towards any moves, and simply trade based on what the charts are telling you level by level. Okay, so short term, we've talked about it. Hourly, looking okay, looking pretty grim over here. We need to really see that price action push through these locally established highs, okay, for the price to continue upwards. Until then, it's looking pretty weak. It's not looking amazing. If we do see the RSI breakdown, it is pretty likely we are pushing all the way back down into these pre 90-day tariff pause announcement price, which is around about that 78 to 77.6 level. And until then, we are watching the short term for reversals, best case scenario, and this week of a short term daily downtrend. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a fantastic day. Let's quickly finish up over here. Nearly forgot. Total market cap. Okay, total market cap looking pretty awful. Not gonna lie, guys. We've seen the same breakdown of the total market cap as we've seen on Bitcoin, which is the weekly RSI breakdown, and we've seen the uptrend breakdown. So it's looking pretty much terrible, provided we remain under those same key levels, that weekly downtrending level, of course, the weekly uptrend level, and the RSI level. Not looking amazing, under the 50 EMA as well, actually looking a lot worse than Bitcoin. Looking at the altcoin market cap, saving grace, it has bounced on this horizontal level on the RSI. If we lose this level, altcoins are in for a world of pain. 10, 15, 20% corrections on the board for altcoins, potentially down to 630 to 550 billion on the total 3 market cap. So thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya. Bye.